Hi Neet Aspirants, welcome to Vari Medical Academy. Vari Medical Academy சார்பாக அனைத்து விதமான டாபிக் சார்ந்த ஒவ்வொரு வீடியோவும் இனி வரும் நாட்களில் உங்களுக்கு வரும். உங்களுக்கு இதை சார்ந்த சந்தேகங்கள், கேள்விகள் எதுவாக இருந்தாலும் கமெண்ட்ஸில் பாஸ் பண்ணுங்கள். எங்கள் எக்ஸ்பர்ட் ஃபேக்கல்ட்டி மெம்பர்ஸ் போடுற வீடியோஸ் பிடிச்சிருந்ததுன்னா ஷேர் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. அந்த வீடியோ ரெகுலராக உங்களுக்கு வரணும்னா சேனலை சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. தேங்க்யூ. Wish you all the best.
Yeah, good afternoon students. Already first class I explained what is system and surrounding types of systems and state function and path function. Now today class extensive property and intensive property. Write down extensive property, another one is intensive property. Now extensive property, what is extensive property? The difference between intensive and extensive, write down. Extensive property means mass dependent property. The property which depends on mass dependent property, that is called extensive property. Size of the system, size of the quantity of the substance, size of the cell, it is mass dependent property. Extensive property depends on mass, or mass means it is depend on matter, or quantity of the, or quantity or size of cell. This is called extensive property. The property which depends on mass or matter or quantity, that is called extensive property. Next, intensive property means mass independent property. Mass independent, it is not depend on, next, not depend quantity or matter or size of the, not depend size of cell. Mass independent property is called intensive property. Mass dependent property is called extensive property. Now what are the extensive property? Write down children. That is pressure. Sorry. Mass dependent properties means volume is the mass dependence, V. Next, number of moles, also number of moles. Next, mass or matter or weight, next, volume, number of moles. Next one is entropy, enthalpy, H, Gibbs free energy, Gibbs free function, Gibbs free energy, G. Next one is the heat energy and work energy. Energy we can take now. Energy means heat energy and work energy. Heat energy and work energy. These are mass dependent properties. Energy, heat energy, work energy, Gibbs free energy, entropy, enthalpy, mass. Internal energy means U, internal energy. Next, heat capacity. These are called extensive property. What is the children? What is the extensive property? The mass dependent property is called as extensive property. In extensive property, examples are internal energy, heat capacity. What is heat capacity? the amount of substance, heat capacity of the substance, the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 degree or 1 Kelvin, 1 degree centigrade or 1 Kelvin, that is called heat capacity. We can discuss later. Next, volume. Volume also, it's depend on mass dependent property. And next, number of moles and weight of the substance, mass and entropy, enthalpy. Next, what is entropy? Disorder of the system. Enthalpy, total heat content of the system. Gibbs free energy, delta G is equal to H minus delta H minus T delta S. Energy, energy in the form of work energy, heat energy. Next, heat capacity, internal energy. These are called extensive properties. And intensive properties, write down pressure. Pressure is intensive property. And temperature, temperature T. Viscosity, viscosity, surface tension, viscosity, surface tension, refractive index, refractive index. Next, concentration, concentration. Next, molar entropy, molar entropy. Next, after molarity and normality, normality. Next, mole fraction, mole fraction. These are intensive properties, mass independent properties. Pressure, temperature, viscosity, refractive index, concentration, surface tension, molar entropy, molarity, normality, mole fraction. In this, intensive properties are mass independent. It is not to depend on mass, amount of the substance. Here is amount of substance is depend. Now we can take another one. Understand students, very easy, extensive and intensive properties. Next one is intensive property is equal to intensive property, intensive property, property is equal to extensive by extensive by extensive, to extensive. If for example intensive property I am writing molar entropy or molarity. Molarity is the intensive property. Molarity is intensive property. This is I. Molarity is the intensive property. Now extensive property, molarity is equal to number of moles. Number of moles. Number of moles is extensive property. Now extensive property is number of moles. Next, volume. Volume also extensive property. Now tell me, molarity, intensive property is equal to extensive property by extensive property. If you take molar entropy, molar entropy. In this molar entropy, this one is the intensive property. Intensive property is the molar entropy. Extensive property means entropy, entropy and number of moles. Number of moles. Number of just moles, we can take number of moles instead moles. Number of moles. Molar entropy. This is extensive property and this one also extensive property. Now what you understand, intensive property is equal to extensive property by extensive property. If you take molarity, molarity is the intensive property and the number of moles is extensive and volume is the extensive. This is the intensive and extensive property. In examination in Neet or very low level exams, they are asking what is intensive property, what is extensive property, example. Sometime it's not a, it's one is easy only. Next one, what are the thermodynamic process? Write the thermodynamic process. Thermodynamic process. The operation, one of the operation we can do in thermodynamic process, which brings some parameters, some variables are constant. Now in isothermal process, this is the thermodynamics. Next one, thermodynamics process. Next to adiabatic process. Next one is isobaric process. And next one is isochoric process. These are the 4 different types of thermodynamic process: isothermal process, adiabatic process, isobaric process, isochoric process. In isothermal process, in the process in which temperature of the system, temperature of the system is constant. That is called isothermal process. The process in which temperature of the system is constant. If temperature system is constant, means delta T is equal to 0. Delta T is constant. Now delta T constant means pressure inversely proportional to volume. What is the pressure inversely proportional to volume? That is the Boyle's law. Now P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. Here is delta T is 0, means in isothermal process delta U, internal energy, also 0. This process is called isothermal process. The process in which temperature of the system is constant. Delta T is equal to constant. Here is no changing any temperature. Delta T is equal to 0, delta U is equal to 0, P inversely proportional to 1 by V. This is the isothermal process. And in isothermal process, different isothermal reversible expansion, irreversible expansion. We can discuss. Now what are the important process? Next one is the adiabatic process. What is adiabatic process? In this already I discussed the system, adiabatic condition. Adiabatic means heat cannot flow from system to surrounding. The boundary, adiabatic boundary means the boundary which cannot transfer heat from system to surrounding. Adiabatic process means the process in which heat of the system is constant. That is called adiabatic process. In adiabatic process, delta Q is equal to 0. 0 in adiabatic process. The process in which heat of the system is constant. That is called adiabatic process. If you take a isobaric process, in isobaric process, the process in which pressure of the system is constant. Here is delta Q is equal to constant in above. Here is the process in which pressure of the system is constant. That is called, what is the name? Isobaric. Isobaric means delta P is equal to 0. Delta P is equal to constant. This process is called isobaric process. Adiabatic means the process in which heat of the system is constant. Next, isochoric process. What is the isochoric process? The process in which the volume of the system, the pressure of the system, or this is the pressure isobaric, but here isochoric means the volume of the system. Volume of the system is constant. Volume of system is constant. That is called isochoric process. Delta V is equal to 0. Delta V is equal to constant. If constant means isochore and constant pressure means isobars and isothermal. These are the different process we used in just to introduction. What is introduction? What are the thermodynamic process? The thermodynamic process are 4 types. One is isothermal process, adiabatic process, isobaric process, isochoric process. Now, which one is the more work? Which one is the maximum work happened? In isobaric process only maximum work is given. Now write pressure versus volume graph. Pressure versus volume graph. Here is this point, here is more pressure, here is more pressure. Now this one is the isobaric process. Here is volume. This point volume is, here is volume is increases, here is pressure, here volume is less, means isochoric. Next, now this one is the isothermal, this curve isothermal process, and this one is the adiabatic. Now work of isobaric process is greater than work of isothermal. Next, work of adiabatic, and next one, and work in very less work in isochoric process. Choric. Isochoric, choric, okay, sorry, isochoric process. Which one is the more work, student? In isobaric. In this maximum work is happened for isobaric, and minimum less work is isochoric process. These are the different thermodynamic process, and it will be useful. And for Neet exam who are preparing, and first target the thermodynamics. Every year 2 questions are given from very easy concepts, and that's concentrate and heat capacity, isothermal reversible expansion, irreversible expansion. Next to spontaneous reaction, delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S, and heat capacity means specific heat capacity, molar specific heat capacity, and important formula is equal to W is equal to minus P external delta V, and first law of thermodynamics, entropy, enthalpy. Next coming classes we can explain, and please comment it and share it, and please like it. Thank you very much.